Hello, guys. Welcome to another session. So here we will be discussing a question and from Marx, and then we will look at the answer also. So here is the question, guys. How does Marx view social conflict as an essential element of social change? So whenever Marx is talking about social change from any mode of production, from ancient to feudal, feudal to capitalism, capitalism to socialism, you will be talking about a mature condition exist, one group revolt against other group, right? The have-nots revolt against the haves, right? So if you see, like in ancient society, slaves revolt against masters. Feudal society, serfs revolt against the lords. Capitalism, workers revolt against the capitalist. So essentially, there is a conflict involved, right? So that's exactly what the question is all about, and it's a very simple answer, straightforward. So you define what is social change, right? And then you talk about idea of social conflict according to Marx and how conflict brings changes with examples. That's exactly what we discussed. And contemporary, you can talk about thinkers also. And then we will be talking about some criticism, and then we will conclude this. So here you need to discuss about different stage. And when you talk about the conflict, you can talk about the reason also. So that's what exactly we discussed, the cause of class struggle, right? So it's nothing but you need to talk about two broad classes, the struggle between the two, when the mature condition exists, when the exploitation reaches at its peak, the kind of organization. And then you will be talking about different stages, how there is an emerging class which actually supported, and all these things you can mention in your answer. So all these is what we have covered in our actual course. So there is no problem that you'll be facing. So let's quickly look at what we are going to do, and we'll also look at some other thinkers also that we can add in the criticism part. In fact, supporting view also we can discuss from thinkers, and criticism part also we can do that. So that's how you will be enriching the answer, okay? So what is social change? Social change refers to significant alteration in the societal structure, the social structure, its functions, and the entire organization of society. So it is manifested through, various dimensions, right? There will be shift in cultural norms, the values will change, the relationships will change, the social institutions will change. So you will see shift in all these, the norms and values, the institutions and other things. And you can talk about various thinkers like Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, proposed theories about the direction and nature of social change. But when Marx talk about social change, he give more emphasis on social conflict as a fundamental driver, right? So whether it is when it comes to societal transformation, social conflict, the struggle between the two classes is a fundamental driver of historical and societal transformation, according to Marx. Mention this in your introduction, and then we can go further. So when we talk about Marx, the social conflict emerged from two, because of class antagonism, that there are two classes if you take any society, and there are antagonist cooperation between them. Antagonist means their interests are contradictory. Within the society, within the same economic structure, the two classes are in conflictual relation, antagonistic cooperation. So particularly the exploitation of the, have-nots by the haves. In capitalism, exploitation of proletariat by the bourgeois, the working class by the capitalist. And in other stages also, it's like that. And he argued that such conflict is, primary means through which the social transformation will take place, or which will be transformative, and that lead to the social change. So for example, capitalism, when workers take control over the production process, and then there will be a revolution and then overthrow of capitalist, and that lead to socialism. So there is a social change. So what is a fundamental driver of social change according to Marx? It is nothing but two broad classes, the antagonist cooperation and the conflict between them when the mature condition exists. So, and the change will be revolutionary, right? The revolutionary changes, and the changes will be qualitative in nature. There will be gradual quantitative changes in terms of forces of production and other things, but there will be a sudden qualitative change when the mature condition exists, when the exploitation reaches at its peak, the have-nots revolt against the haves. So that's what the sudden revolutionary change, which is a qualitative change according to Marx. So that's briefly you can mention, and then you can talk about, conflict as an inevitable outcome of class division. So there will be, Marx viewed history as a series of class struggle between two opposing groups in any, see, why his theory is not as historical materialism. He understands through history. So ancient to feudal to capitalism to socialism, right? He's also talking about the futuristic society. There is always a have not and have, oppressor and oppressed. right? So upper class and lower class. And in capitalist society, this antagonism between the bourgeois and the capitalist, bourgeois and the worker is very high. The capitalists control the means of production, and the proletariat who sell their labor for the wages, and he get exploited by the capitalist. Again, you can bring in historical materialism, some ideas that you have studied. You can talk about alienation also. So when you talk about historical materialism, that theory, the evolutionary theory, the second part of historical materialism, the social change you can mention, right? Social change is driven by material and economic condition rather than, ideas or ideals. There we talked about George Hegel, his concept of dialectical idealism, but Marx proposed dialectical materialism. And talk about each stage, primitive communism to feudalism, ancient to feudalism to capitalism, evolved as a result of contradictions within the particular mode of production and how the contradictions overcome. Talk about dialectical materialism, the contradictions, two classes, the class struggle between the two, and the reasons, and that evolutionary model that led to conflict, the antagonistic cooperation, and eventually that led to revolution and that create the social change. So that historical materialism aspect you can mention. Talk about the class struggle part. Alienation. It's a byproduct of capitalist production. Again, that fosters dissatisfaction among the workers. That will contribute to the development of class consciousness. So you need to talk about that true consciousness, false consciousness aspect, and true consciousness, how it will, towards the end it will come. And that lead to a positive change. So Marx identified that fourth dimension of alienation also. If time and spaces, they have mentioned about that also. All these will give you a good understanding about, your understanding about the subject. So how conflict brings social change? See, again, here you can explain with the different societies. Ancient society, what happened? Talk about the masters and the slaves. So what happened? The emerging class came who are related to settled agriculture, and then there was a conflict when the exploitation reaches at its peak and the slaves took control, but still they are dependent on masters. And then comes to the new society, feudal society, where again lords and serfs is there, exploitation is there in terms of more taxes. When the mature condition exists at that time, new forces of production related to factory system has come, and then the serfs revolt and move towards factory. That led to capitalism. And then in capitalism, here very much exploitative, alienation, too much of workload, inhuman working condition, low wages and other things. That's the exploitation here. So bourgeois, the capitalists want to maximize the profit, but by paying less wages or inhuman working condition. But on the other side, the workers need more wages and better working condition and other things. So there are contradiction. There is an antagonistic cooperation. So this exploitation, coupled with the concentration of wealth among the few, that create conditions for class polarization and the eventual revolution, emergence into the emergence of class consciousness also. So talk about class polarization, right? We discussed that bourgeoisization, proletarianization, homogenization, pauperization. So polarization means the rise of monopolies and the erosion of smaller capitals, right? So Marx talking about a pyramidal model where middle class is there, upper class few, lower class majority. And what he's talking about is over a period of time, the middle class will either go to upper class in terms of through bourgeoisization, or middle class go to lower class in terms or through proletarianization. So this entire process is what class polarization. Homogenization is a growing proletariat with shared grievances that fosters solidarity. Pauperization, that's a worsening economic condition among the workers that lead to widespread discontent. Right? All these we discussed in the theory of class struggle. And then the revolution you talk about, the qualitative change you talk about, the gradual quantitative change in terms of FOP you talk about. So much of things you need to bring in. The language need to be precise. Okay, so Marx envisioned that the proletariat would develop class consciousness, which is true consciousness, towards the end, uniting against the bourgeois to overthrow the capitalist system. So the outcome will be socialism, which is a transitional phase, which eventually end in communism without any private property or class distinction or any kind of exploitation. Okay, so now various application of Marx theory. You can talk about global inequalities. You can talk about labor movements, workers' strikes and protest for better wages and better working condition. That in fact echoes Marx's emphasis on class struggle. Global inequalities. Thomas Piketty, his research, in fact, highlights how capitalism exacerbates wealth disparities, aligning with Marx's criticism of exploitation only. Then various revolutionary movements, Russian Revolution, farmers' movements in India. right? If you see scholars like D.N. Thanagare documented how shift in, to the commercial agriculture, green revolution, that created economic disparities and unrest that led to collective uprisings. So initially we talk about peasant movements, then we talk about farmers movements. Their demands are entirely different, especially post-green revolution. Right. Again, Russian Revolution. Marx ideas inspired the overthrow of monarchy and the establishment of a socialist state. Various other emerging conflicts like environmental crisis, technological exploitation. Thomas Friedman identified the pandemic and environmental degradation as products of exploitative systems, hinting at the need of systemic change again. Technological exploitation, the gig economy, exemplifies new forms of worker exploitation. That's again reinforcing Marx's analysis of alienation and class dynamics only. So, guys, so much of things you can write here. The scope is unlimited if you get questions like this, because it's not only about the theory they're asking, it's all about the social change, and you can connect it with theory. So everything that you have learned, you can, all the three theories you can connect and you can write. So that's the beauty of this question. And you should be scoring good if you get this kind of question. What are the criticism? General criticism, we write reductionism first. Marx reduces all social conflict to economic contradictions, ignoring the other aspect, non-economic causes. There are, he's ignoring gender aspect, race, ethnicity, religion, and other things. Neglect of agency. So again, the critics argue that Marx overemphasized structural forces and underplayed the role of individual agency and cultural factors. So still you can talk about the relevance in contemporary times, the growth of middle class, Marx talking about polarization, right? So what happened? In fact, Weber is talking about this. It's not a pyramidal structure, it's a diagonal structure. Now the middle class is getting more, right? So Marx's concept of polarization, that prediction that actually has gone wrong. So the growth of middle class in capitalist societies, that actually challenges Marx's prediction of class polarization. Welfare states and labor laws have mitigated some forms of exploitation. So that's again complicating Marx's vision of inevitable revolution. But still, all these are because of Marx only. That's again another point. If Marx wouldn't have written or given these things, the capitalism would have been so much exploitative and welfare state wouldn't have taken care of all these things, and revolution would have happened. In fact, there is a very famous saying that Marx saved capitalism through his writing, because of welfare state initiatives and other things. Otherwise, there was an inevitable revolution. But at this point of time, because of welfare state and various laws and other things, it is not inevitable at this point of time, like Marx visualized. Society have changed from that time. Now it's entirely different. And cultural and ideological dimensions, we can postmodernist and the cultural theorists, they argue that Marx neglected the role of ideology, culture, and the symbolic systems in perpetuating power structures. We know all these, that's why I'm just going through fast. Again, non-class-based conflict. Feminist and critical race theorists, they highlight how conflicts based on patriarchy and racism also drive social change. But Marx only talking about class. That's the first criticism that we mentioned, and that's a general criticism also. You can also talk about the contemporary thinkers on class conflict, like Ralph Dahrendorf. Very, very important. We discuss about him many times, many cases whenever we talk about Marx. He emphasized the institutionalization of conflict in modern society, which in fact allow for its management without revolutionary outcomes. Antonio Gramsci's cultural hegemony, everywhere we mention about that. He introduced the concept of cultural hegemony, which again highlighting how the ruling class maintain control through ideological dominance rather than direct coercion. Habermas criticized Marx for neglecting the role of communication and rational discourse in fostering social change. Then Crane Brinton, other three is fine. Crane Brinton, in fact, argued that revolutions are contingent on leadership and organization rather than being automatic outcomes of class antagonism. So this, I hope, will give you a lot of content that you might be missing in your notes. So you update your notes also based on the idea that I have given to you. Remember, this is not a session where I'm talking about the actual topic. This is a session where I'm guiding you how you're going to approach the question in a rounded manner, right? Everything we covered over here. So how can we conclude now? See, Marx's perspective on social conflict as a catalyst of social change, that remained one of the most influential theories in sociology, of course. Social conflict that lead to change. But dialectical idealism, that is more relevant these days, right? Ideas related to social change. But Marx connect everything with the material condition. So when you're analyzing the historical and material condition, Marx, in fact, demonstrated how conflict between classes drives societal transformation. His theories have been criticized for their economic determinism, oversimplification, reductionism, etc. But they provide a powerful framework for understanding systemic inequalities and envisioning revolutionary change. Till the time poverty and inequality exist, Marx is considered relevant. So, see, this is a world which is marked by persistent inequalities, ecological crisis, technological exploitation. So, of course, Marx insights continue to inform the critical sociological thought, and that will emphasize the transformative potential of collective action and conflict. So that's my point is, till the time poverty, exploitation, inequality, all these are there, Marx is always relevant. Marxian ideas are relevant. So that's about the session, guys. Thank you so much for attending. If you like the video, share it with your friends also. And in case if you're looking for any mentorship on sociology, test series or the course, check out the details in the description. Download the PDF from the description so that you can complete your syllabus in case if you have not attended any courses. So see you guys in the next session. Thank you so much.